Okay, folks, I think we'll make a start. As I say, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and I hope you are all keeping well, you and yours out there, and your teams as well. There's a couple of areas I would just like to talk through before I hand over to ELT colleagues to go through a number of core areas that have arisen through the Slido today. And clearly, one of the areas that I'm just going to touch on, but is had a significant number of responses this afternoon, is around the furloughing. But before I talk a little bit about that, I just want to give everybody something of an organisational update in terms of how we stand at this moment in time. We're continuing to use our gold command structure to daily monitor the situation across the organisation, to look at where there are homes and schemes who are facing particular challenges because of the outbreaks they've got, how many of our residents we are sadly losing, how many of those who are actually at the moment current cases having tested positive for the virus or suspected to be so, and to give you a bit of an overview really about the way forward as we see it. So where we're at the moment is that to date, as of this morning, we have very sadly lost 350 residents across our homes and schemes. And we have also lost now 3 colleagues, an additional colleague, Jane Jongwei, since we had ELT 3. And at the end of my section, what I will be doing is asking you to observe a minute's silence just to remember her team at Herondale Kingfisher in Birmingham, and her family. So yes, as I say, we've lost 350 residents, 3 colleagues. We've got currently 401 cases live across MHA in our homes and schemes. That is across 68 homes and schemes, and 40 of those have got what is classed as an outbreak, which is 2 or more cases at the present time. The reassuring news is that 499 of our residents have now recovered, which is such good news and provides such hope in our homes and schemes. You'll have seen as well over last week and this week that we have continued to lobby for testing for all our residents and all our staff across our homes and schemes, because we know that to be vital in terms of being able to isolate our residents effectively, so that we are providing for their care and manage the risk of spread within the home, and then also to ensure that we have the right staff in our homes who are COVID-free. And one of the learnings that we've had over the last 3 weeks is that there are a significant number, around 10% of staff and residents, who we have found do not present any symptoms, but actually are COVID positive. And that is sometimes the way, particularly with staff, that actually the infection is coming into the homes. So we've had a number out, but then suddenly you will get a case that is tested positive in one of our residents, and none of the staff are presenting symptoms, and none of the residents have been into hospital. So we know that to be the case. So we're really lobbying hard for that. And we're also lobbying hard that that is fully in place and running by the time there is any easing of the lockdown restrictions that everybody is experiencing. Because if lockdown is eased, there is a risk that our staff potentially become more at risk of picking up the infection and then taking it into our homes. So this is really serious stuff that we're lobbying for on a daily basis, and which we will continue to try and make sure that our homes and schemes are as safe as possible. That's kind of the broad picture, and we have made significant headway on that, and the government have committed to that testing. Logistics are proving a challenge, so we're not there yet, but we are continuing to battle for that. And I know that that is happening differentially across our homes and schemes out there across England, Scotland and Wales. So the other area I want to touch on is around the issue of furloughing. Now, I made a judgment call for the comms this week, which was if we set people a sense of an understanding of the context in which we had made the decision to furlough a number of colleagues, then hopefully people, when they were approached to have that discussed with them, would have some sense of that bigger picture. I understand from certainly looking at the Slido questions that some people would have preferred it the other way around and that it has caused some distress. And I am very sorry for that and I apologise. I think it was a difficult call in terms of which way around was the best, but clearly that has not worked for some people. And as I say, I apologise for that. Victoria and Anna are going to talk a bit more in detail about furloughing and the why and how. But in terms of the why, we have the people we have furloughed to date have been those who fell into the categories that were set up by the government in terms of those with underlying health conditions, those who were over 70 and those who were pregnant. And we have moved those people already onto furlough. What you will have seen in my weekly comms, though, is that clearly the financial position is starting to roll through, and we are particularly seeing the hit on our occupancy drop from 91% down to 82%. And so we are having to look more prudently at the way we move forward to try and ensure the future ongoing sustainability of MHA and getting through this current crisis, however long it may be. And on that basis, and because the furloughing enables us to ensure that colleagues who are furloughed receive 80% of their income, the principle behind that is that those colleagues who are furloughed are not currently fully occupied in a role, or their role has been paused, or the capacity within their team is not at the level because the work has changed in the current crisis. So that's the basis on which we have done that. But I appreciate that for everybody who is furloughed, that is a hit, that is difficult, and I don't underestimate that in any sense. I would say, though, however, in terms of the tenor and tone of some of the comments on Slido, I would draw you back to the comment that I made in my midweek comms about thinking about walking in each other's shoes. This is a difficult thing. It is difficult for people to be furloughed, but actually some of the tone and tenor of the comments made by colleagues about other colleagues in the organisation who I do not think they fully appreciate the nature of the work that they are doing is not part of being one MHA, and it's not part of the way that we want to be and support one another through this difficult time. It is hard, it is difficult, but actually those kind of judgments and those kind of ways of expressing that really is not helpful and is hurtful to the endeavour and effort that various colleagues are making as we go through this. So please, people, I would ask you to be thoughtful. I would ask you to be kind and supportive to one another. This is hard for those colleagues who are now being furloughed, but colleagues across the organisation are experiencing all sorts of different and varied challenges which are impacting them in a very personal way too. So we're going to pick up the key issues that have been raised on Slido in terms of that, but I would just bring us back to our values in terms of respect, nurture and inspire. And please, people, when you're talking about your colleagues, think of those things too. On that note, in terms of respect and in terms of nurture, I would now just like us to take a minute just to remember Jane, who was a nurse at Herondale and Kingfisher in Birmingham. She was very much part of that team. She was hugely loved and huge and stuff. So let us just take a minute to remember her. Thank you very much. So I'm now going to hand over to Victoria and ask her to address some of the issues around the financial position. Victoria.
Thank you, Sam. So first of all, a big thank you to everybody out in frontline and all the central services for doing everything that you're doing. It's making MHA the wonderful place that it is. So I'd like to just give you some financial context to the furlough decision, financial impacts that we're seeing across the care sector, but I just wanted to talk you through what we're seeing so far. So within care homes, we've seen an occupancy reduction from 91% at the end of March down to 82%, and we're still seeing occupancy continuing to fall. So just to give you an indication, for every 1% occupancy that we lose, costs us about 2 million in income per year. So that already is quite a significant impact. We're seeing the demand for new admissions into care homes dry up. We're seeing far fewer inquiries than we've ever had before, leading to concerns about when our occupancy recover. We've seen significant expenditure increase for PPE, personal protective equipment. That's because we aren't getting the adequate stocks from the government. So we've already spent, in the first 6 weeks of the pandemic, an additional and unplanned £1.2 million. We're also seeing staffing costs increase. On average, 10% of our colleagues have either self-isolated, and in line with our values, as you know, we've uplifted statutory sick pay. So we're required to use costly agency as required. We're also seeing other income streams affected. So fundraising income has reduced significantly, and you'll have seen that on the news for other charities as well. Live at home is also being impacted, as we know. So operational income has dried up as they're not able to deliver face-to-face services. They're doing other befriending and telephone work and potentially getting grants for that, but it's not making up for the lost income that they normally receive. We're also seeing sales of properties declining dramatically. So primarily in retirement living, we're seeing less of that coming through. So those are the immediate short-term impacts that we've already seen. We've also got the longer-term issues of the inevitable economic downturn impacting the desire to purchase retirement living properties and making the affordability of the self-funding care home admissions uncertain for the future. There's also the issue of the supply and demand of the care sector in the medium and long term. I've been reading some economic forecasts, and there is uncertainty pretty much amongst everyone what the sector will look like and what demand and indeed supply will be going forward. So we've been doing some financial forecasting and scenario modelling, and that's taken into account all of these immediate and ongoing impacts, which led us to consider and take action to reduce cash outflow. So we've already or plan to do the following. So as you know, we've paused the 2020-21 Estates Capital Expenditure Plan. We've paused the change projects and the strategy work streams. We're now looking to furlough colleagues, and we have already furloughed colleagues whose work isn't critical to the delivery of care. Further focus on homes on closely managing staffing levels relative to occupancy rather than budgeted hours, and preferably only using agency as a last resort. We're not filling role vacancies unless they're essential to deliver services, and where we can, we're minimising any non-essential spend. We've also gone to all our landlords and financial institutions requesting payment holidays on the payments that we make to them. So furlough is one of the many tools that we're using to safeguard the long-term viability of the organisation. Just to give you an idea, the announcement yesterday relates to 50 colleagues at Epworth House and 20 colleagues from Live at Home. Anna's going to go into a lot more detail on the actual mechanics of furlough. I know there have been other questions regarding what the future holds, and what we can say about that is that unfortunately we can't be certain what it holds, but we're exploring every avenue we can to maintain our services for the long term. That's it from me, so handing over to Anna. I think.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just waiting for the unmute there. Thank you, Victoria. As you rightly say both Victoria and Sam, like many others across the nation, we're considering furlough for individuals whose work isn't either directly or immediately critical to the delivery of care and support during this crisis. So I thought I would cover a little bit in response to the questions around what is furlough, what does that mean in practice, and how have people been considered for furlough. So first of all then, the government created the job retention scheme, and that was where furlough was introduced, usually an American term, but it was introduced to financially support organisations through the pandemic. So it's a temporary pause of work, and this scheme is currently available until the end of June. As Sam said, it pays 80% of wages up to a maximum of £2,500 per month and subject to usual deductions. As part of our considerations, we looked at top-up, but because of the financial situation, we're unable to do that at this time, particularly when we continue to experience significant absences relating to people self-isolating for COVID, and we are providing additional financial support to those colleagues as well. So the rules around furlough are that those people who are furloughed are unable to work for us during the period. The IT access, therefore, will be temporarily paused or suspended during the time of furlough, which in the first instance is generally up until the end of June, and we will review that in about a month's time as time progresses, unless circumstances change either way. But you will still be able to access things such as My MHA to update your details, review your pay slips, and keep in touch with things like Connecting MHA, our people newsletter. For those people who are being furloughed, part of the process is agreeing with your line manager about the ways in which you would like to keep in touch and how we can continue to do that. As I say, it's a temporary pause, so maintaining that contact will be important as we move forward. Should people wish to take up additional employment, as that's been cited, that would need to be agreed on a case-by-case basis and subject to there being no conflict. Terms and conditions will continue as normal, so all of the benefits would continue. Some people have asked if you can sell back holidays. It's not under our flexible benefits to sorry, so it's an option for us all to buy an extra week's holiday. Some people have done that and asking if they can sell it back. We'll look to open up that. It's considered a salary sacrifice, so we'll need to go through a process to organise that, but we'll look to do that for those who want to. So if you could please raise that with Nina Rolleston, then we can look to organise that for you. And that will enable you to adjust your annual leave. If anybody has felt that the process hasn't been transparent at all, please do raise that with HR, and Nina would like to address the case in any for any individual. So I would
Sarah, have we lost Anna?
Yes, she's back on now.
Can you ask her to repeat what she was saying? Thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully you heard up to, I got up to the point around why furlough, and how have we determined who to furlough. So I was wanting to echo what Sam and Victoria had said around everybody's amazing work, the dedication of each individual, and everybody working together to deliver our charity's mission. That's completely valued. However, we do know that as a result of COVID, some of our work has been hampered, and we were not able to work to full capacity in the way that we normally would as a result of COVID. And therefore, that's the reason why people aren't able to work to full capacity or do what they need to do because of COVID, that isn't really essential to the delivery of care and support, or we're unable to do that at this time. The purpose is, as we were saying, to ensure that we can safeguard our financial position going forward. So some people have asked around, what will this look like going forward? We're unable to say the resource needs into the longer term, but we continue to plan that so that we've got the best position. And like I say, with furlough being a temporary situation that we'll review in over the coming weeks. So together with the heads of the department and our directors, ELT have considered what's been immediately essential for the charity to operate. And where all of the activities of a team has been either impacted by COVID or can be paused, then that's where a team has been furloughed. Where there is a reduced activity or there is different activity within the team, we've looked at the skills needed to complete that essential activity. And then we have either looked for a request for a voluntary furlough, or we have introduced a rotating furlough. So that would mean somebody would go on furlough for potentially 3 weeks, and then another colleague for 3 weeks, therefore sharing that basis if there's only a reduced need with people that are doing the same role. So we've been liaising with directors and heads of, and consideration has been made to all roles. And I would say certainly my role and all of the ELT and SLG has been reviewed as part of that. So that everybody is working at full capacity on critical work has been what we've been looking at. So the following teams have been impacted, as Victoria and Sam gave the outline of the figures. So property sales, as you'll appreciate, has been hampered, along with estates and our bigger work. So members of finance and some of the fundraising work which we undertake, people engagement and development in terms of some of our training, change, quality, some of the OST team, as we'd mentioned previously. In terms of the recruitment, then what we have said is that operationally vacancies continue, so you'll be aware of MHA Needs You, the importance of the needs for our homes to be fully staffed at all times. So those roles continue to be advertised, but we then have paused central support vacancies, and will only advertise those which are absolutely critical. As we move forward. So I think those were the key questions, a brief overview. The other area I wanted to pick up on was fundraising. There have been some questions around
Sarah?
Yes. Hi, Sam.
Do you want to come back to... Do we want to come back to Anna in a bit and go on to I don't know whether it's Dan next, and then Anna finish off when hopefully her signal might have settled down a bit.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Sorry, Anna.
Are we coming to me?
Yeah, try you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm going to keep my section reasonably brief, not least because my signal is not great either. I seem to have dropped out of the call a couple of times. But I want to just, first of all, just want to say thank you and pay tribute to all of the amazing work which is going on right the way across the organisation. And I think from Epworth House to Frontline, the joint effort from everybody is absolutely amazing. And I just have to say, my Facebook stream has been completely dominated by MHA videos over the last week from homes and schemes all over the place, and it just brightens my day on a regular basis to see those videos popping up. And I know the tone of this ELT live is around some of the more somber messaging, but it's really heartwarming to see those positive things happening across the organisation. One of the things I wanted to pick up on briefly is just a bit of detail around the testing of staff and residents. I know that Sam alluded to that in his introduction. And just to kind of fill you in a little bit, we continue to lobby on a daily basis around getting regular and ongoing testing for all of our staff and residents. We've been reasonably successful in terms of getting at the forefront of that, and I'm not sure whether you're aware or not, but 21 of our homes have been involved in a pilot scheme over the last week where we've had whole home testing for all of our colleagues and residents in those homes, and we're about next week, and I feel quite confident that following on from that, we will then roll that out further to all homes and schemes, in line with Matt Hancock's announcement last week that everybody within social care, regardless of whether they're symptomatic or not, will have access to testing. So watch this space for more information about that, but that's certainly something that is finally gathering some ground. I also wanted to just cover off some of the anxieties I think that are coming through on Slido around the future for occupancy and the future for some of our activities, particularly in Live at Home. There's some questions on Slido around this and groups in the way that we previously had, and it's unclear when we'll be able to get back to doing that. I mean, in terms of the Live at Home activity, I think what has been amazing to see over the last 6 weeks is just the flexibility and the way that we've changed the way that we deliver services to continue to really provide.
Sarah?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've got an unstable connection. It's being a little bit tricky today. Sorry, I'm just wondering whether Dan will come back on. Yeah, here he is.
Okay. You need to unmute him again.
You're good to go, Dan.
Okay, I'm not sure where we got to, but I was reflecting on the level of new funding opportunities we've identified over the last 6 weeks in Live at Home. And more than 170 opportunities identified for a potential million pounds or more of funding, and that's in relation to different types of activity. I know we've had 47 successful applications already. So while the future is uncertain, I think it's really important to reflect on the fact that we'll adapt to that future, and we can't give guarantees around what the activity will look like and the level of that activity, but we'll be doing our level best to make sure that we are there providing those services and ensuring that we're providing services in the community. In terms of occupancy in care homes, again, it's very difficult to forecast forwards what that's going to look like when we're still in the middle of the pandemic and occupancy rates have probably not quite bottomed out yet. Sam's alluded to the fact that we've declined occupancy from 92 to the low 80s, and it's likely to fall a little bit further and then take some time to come back. What we can take some comfort in, if there's any to be taken, is that this isn't something that's just affecting MHA, but is clearly affecting the whole sector. And we, along with others, are doing everything we can to explore options with government as to how we're going to support the sector and make sure that we're there and able to be in the right position to as and when we come out of this pandemic and we move forwards. So I'm not sure that there are any solid messages or guarantees of what the future can look like that anybody can give at the moment. But what I do know is that we are really well placed to be in the right place to come out of that. I know that the conversations that we're having with the government and the lobbying that's being led by Sam, particularly with the support of PAV, is having the right effect. And I think that we are better placed than most to find our way through this very difficult situation. That's it for me, I think. I'm going to hand over to Andy to give his update.
Just trying to unmute myself. Thanks everybody, and just thank you for all that amazing work that's going on out there. It really is amazing, and to keep it going for this long again is just a tribute to you all. I think the current position on PPE, I think it's, at the moment, it's good to be able to say that our position has improved. Over the past few weeks, we've managed to acquire some substantial stocks that will take us forward into the future, which is very good. No homes have run out of any PPE at any stage so far. There's been a lot of work to achieve that, including area managers and regional directors ferrying PPE from home to home, so that's really good. We've probably got, there was a question about what sort of stock level have we got at the moment. We've probably got enough stock, depending upon use, minimum 8 weeks, probably going out to 3 to 4 months, depending upon use. We're reviewing that use daily, and weekly we have a session to see, do we need to place any more orders to make sure that we fill any gaps as they appear on the horizon. So far it has cost us about 1.2 million, which is something that Victoria mentioned, and I think it's important to note that if we need to buy more, we will buy more. We're not going to be overly bound by that budget. We will make sure that we get the PPE to the people that need PPE regardless. We'll do that by hook or by crook. And again, just referring back, that's one of the issues that furlough helps us maintain to the future. We have a daily report from each of the schemes and each of the homes around about stock, but we still hear concerns from individual homes now and again. Please carry on flagging those concerns up. If you've got any issues whatsoever about PPE and when you might run out or what you need, flag them up to your area managers, flag them up to your RDs, flag them up to ourselves in procurement, and we'll make sure that we get the stock to you. We know it can be a worry, especially if levels of stock are starting to get low. So don't worry, flag it to us and we'll sort it out for you. I've only got one other item for today, which is quite a detailed one. And if Helen has referred to in one of the queries about some masks that go into retirement living that you have to tie behind the ears. Could you send me a photograph of those masks? Because the ones that we thought that were being delivered have got loops on them and are therefore easy for people just to use themselves. So a request to Helen there, please email a photograph of those masks to me. That'll be helpful and we can see what we can do about changing them. That's all I've got from my position today. Thank you all for all you're doing, and I shall now pass over to Mandy.
Hi everybody. Again, I'd like to add my thanks to the outstanding effort that everybody is making to deliver our services and to make sure that we are continuing to keep our residents and staff as safe as possible. At the moment, it's really hard, and we know that everybody is doing the best that they can, which includes the rest of my colleagues on ELT. So I'd like to thank them too, publicly, for the job that they're doing. One of the questions on Slido to me was, obviously last time I'd mentioned the death in service form, which I believed was on my MHA, and I apologise that that information was slightly incorrect. So on my MHA, you can fill in the details of your next of kin at the moment, and that's important so that, you know, if anything did happen to you, we know who to contact. And if you inform your next of kin of your wishes, then we will follow those. There is still a paper form that you can fill in and hand in to your line manager with your wishes on it if you want to express those independently of letting your next of kin know. We are looking at trying to add a section on the next of kin page where you add those details so that you can put your expressions onto my MHA, but it's not on there yet, and we will let everybody know if we manage to get that on there. And just a reminder as well, for anybody who is in the pension scheme, you can go on to the Pension Trust website to register your preferences for your pension benefits as well. That's all I have today. So I'd like to, I don't know whether we're going back to Anna, if she's got a stable connection, or whether we're, and then going to Chris after that.
Thanks, Mandy. I'll try and hopefully stay stable for this section. So in terms of fundraising, it was mentioned in Sam's message yesterday, and charities around the country are facing very challenging financial situations currently. And for us, we have a mixed picture. So obviously, if we moved into the first, we've just had the indicative results for the first month of this financial year. And we have done very well in some areas, and particularly successful in our emergency response asks. So both to trusts and individuals in the general public. And I think that demonstrates that there is a real appetite for supporting charities like MHA who are providing care and support for people, and a recognition of the excellent work that we do. We also had a really good month for legacies too, and then so in terms of our forecast for the month, we had a pretty fantastic return. It is on behalf of everybody, but particularly myself and Sam, I would want to say we have been working together with Live at Home and other colleagues, and that's having real success. However,
I'm not sure if you're aware, but your connection is unstable again, if you can hear this.
Go to Chris. Sarah, can you go to Chris?
Good afternoon, everyone. In the last few weeks, I've been able to visit one of our homes that hasn't got a chaplain at the moment. and it's one of our homes that's been quite badly affected in the coronavirus outbreak, with several fatalities. And I spent some time listening to staff, and I just want to begin really by saying that listening to our colleagues who've been in that context and coping and supporting our residents, I'm just so amazed by the courage and the commitment of people, and perhaps more than anything else, how they've been able to and have supported one another. And I think to thank all our teams, particularly thinking in the ways that teams have worked together on the front line of what we've been facing, has been absolutely amazing, and a complete tribute to those individuals, but also the way in which they formed and sustained teams during these events. So thank you very much to everybody who's part of making those teams so successful for MHA. Just to say a little advance notice really, on the 14th of June, which would have been a normal MHA Sunday, we're not having services with the Methodist Church in the morning, but we are going to broadcast something in the afternoon at 3 p.m. on Sunday the 14th of June. And obviously that will reflect and connect with the experiences that we've been having. It will give people an opportunity if they wish to donate and support us with our particular causes, but it will also include a memorial moment, a time when we will light a candle in that service to think not only of our residents, but also our colleagues who have died during the coronavirus outbreak. I'm sure, like you, I've been moved by Captain, or now Colonel Tom, with all the amazing effort and the millions and millions of pounds he raised, in particular for the NHS. And he's obviously a World War II veteran. And we look across MHA, we look after many veterans in live at home and retirement living, and indeed in care homes. And today there's a video link being sent out, and I was fortunately able to use some material from an interview I did with a resident at Woodlands back in January. And we'll have an opportunity to listen to a little bit of Theo's experience and just be reminded of how many amazing people we look after within MHA. And I hope that across the organisation tomorrow, wherever we may be, we'll have an opportunity, if we're working with residents in particular, to be able to mark VE Day, the 75th anniversary of the ending of the Second World War, and to do that together. And in particular, to honour those veterans we have the privilege to care for within our services. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, Sarah, am I back?
Yes. Can hear you, Sam.
Okay, so Anna, can you just try and finish very briefly what you've been trying to say all the way through?
Yeah. Third time lucky, hopefully. A huge thank you to the fundraising team and Live at Home colleagues who've been working together. I did want to say the future does look uncertain for charities, including MHA. Legacies particular is a large proportion, and they're looking to drop by about between 10% and 30% this year. So the team are working on maximising our income. We have a PPE emergency appeal, and I would encourage everybody to be part of supporting our charity. So like us on Facebook and Twitter, and visit our website. We've got all of our appeals on there, and if you encourage anybody else to, that would be valued as well. So thank you to the team, and thank you to all. I will, as always, be clapping for every single one of you tonight, so thank you. Is it back to you, Sam?
Liz? Okay, thank you, Anna. Sorry, folks, for the difficulties that there's obviously been today, particularly with a number of colleagues' connections. I just want to end up with a few final comments. First of all, there's been on Slido a question, is there any way of communicating in advance any appearances on TV or radio that MHA are doing so we can tune in and not miss out? Sorry about this, folks. They often come up at relatively short notice. I'm more than happy with PAV to put out a quick email when they happen, but it's often at night when we get notification, or during the day, and then it's that evening. But we will try and do that. There's a press statement we've put out today that we don't know whether maybe picked up, but what we're talking about there is in connection with VE Day, how that generation and the generation in our homes served us back then, and how are we serving them now, and actually talking about the real importance of making sure that the testing is reliable and goes forward, and making sure that there is a separate plan for care homes in particular coming out of the current crisis, so that we don't risk further infection spread within our homes going forward. So that may be picked up in some of the press, and we will start putting out, if it's likely that one of us is going to be on the radio, TV. And if you get local features, so we had a really good one that was sent through to me from Lawnfield earlier today, where the Daily Mail mask appeal, PPE appeal, they delivered a load of masks to Lawnfield, and there was a really lovely article where a number of our care staff had been speaking to the paper about what the reality of it was on the ground, but also the gratitude of having received those masks. Just going back to the whole thing of the way forward, ELT are working with colleagues across SLG and out into our services and support services to really look at how we actively plan our way through this. Clearly, it's very uncertain in terms of how this will pan out in terms of actual timescales, but we are starting to look at how we can work towards relatives coming back into our homes ultimately in the future. Also looking at how we sustain our fundraising, how we rebuild our occupancy. One of the questions on Slido was, will we blindly follow government guidance? I think what you can know from us is that any government guidance that comes out, we will be looking at incredibly carefully as to what its direct impact and implications, and we will take an approach that we think will keep our residents and our staff as safe as possible and enable us to conduct our business in a safer possible way. I would encourage you, picking up on Dan's point, to go into the Facebook pages of our homes and schemes and see some of the heartwarming stories. And I would also tell you the number of letters and emails I am getting of gratitude from relatives at the moment for how they are experiencing the contact that we're seeking to maintain between them and the residents in our homes and schemes. And also the support that I know many of those relatives are showing to our homes and schemes in terms of food parcels, in terms of writing letters, sending cards, and also obviously the clapping for carers on a Thursday night. And just for your diaries, I've been told that our home, Kenbrook, in Wembley in London, is going to be featured in the clap for carer slot on Channel 4 News, this 7 slot, or whether they show it on the +1, 4+1 slot. But if you look out for the end of Channel 4 News tonight, you should see our clap for carers. And then in terms of Slido today, there's also a short survey that's been attached under the poll tab on the Slido about communications to help us better understand what works and what we can improve. Taking the point obviously about the communication on furlough, as I said earlier on, but also more generally, we are cutting back our weekly comms, as I said in my Wednesday comms, to just once a week on Wednesdays. We're aware that particularly in our homes and schemes, they're experiencing a huge flow of communication, both from MHA, but also locally in terms of guidance and procedures, which is ever changing and ongoing. So we're trying to make sure that that goes okay. And then finally, I would just like to leave you with one of the quotes of a Slido comment that has come through today. And it kind of comes back to the point at the start here about walking in each other's shoes and about the kind of choices that we have where we're in a crisis like this. And somebody has written, difficult times create bonds that can only be developed during such difficult times. And we will come out of this stronger. #OneMHA. And my hope clearly is that that is what we do. And I have seen so many examples and signs of how colleagues from different parts of this organisation are supporting one another. You know, we won't always get it right, and we won't always get it right with each other. But across the whole of the organisation, I know people are working as hard as they possibly can to make sure that both our service delivery to our residents and scheme members, but also to each other, is of the top order and the best order that we can possibly do. So be kind, take care of yourselves. I hope all the homes and schemes got the boxes of chocolates this week, and that they were enjoyed. We will redress the balance for our colleagues from Central Support when we come back together. But obviously that is difficult when everybody is working away and working from home at the moment. I hope those of you who are having a break this long weekend get a good break, get some good rest and relaxation. I know there will be many activities going on in our homes and schemes tomorrow to celebrate VE Day. I was out at Queen's Court and they were already getting ready for it about 2.5 months ago. But I hope that you have a good celebration if that's what you're doing, and take care of yourselves and each other. So take care, folks, and see you very soon.